Most productivity frameworks promise that if you just manage your hours better, everything else will fall into place. That's why so many of us invest in planners, time-blocking apps, and color-coded calendars. For a while, it feels like control has finally arrived. But the truth is that no matter how perfect the schedule, we don't run on hours, we run on energy. When that runs out, even the best plan falls flat. Time may set the structure, but energy determines whether that structure can hold anything inside it. That's why energy is the missing metric almost every system overlooks. The reality of modern work proves this point daily. Burnout and fatigue now derail more progress than any shortage of hours ever has. Surveys continue to show that professionals aren't lacking in calendar space, they're lacking in capacity. You can reorganize your agenda, reduce meetings, or try to eliminate distractions. But if you attempt deep, creative work in the hour when your energy is at its lowest, the results will always disappoint. That mismatch drains both motivation and confidence, leaving people to blame themselves when the real problem is misaligned fuel. You probably recognize versions of this in your own day. Mornings often feel sharp, your thoughts move faster, decisions feel easier, and you can actually produce something worth keeping. Then after lunch comes the inevitable slump, when focus slips and even drafting a paragraph takes twice the effort. Forcing yourself to do heavy, high-stakes work in that dip is like trying to sprint with sandbags tied to your legs. The task itself isn't impossible. The energy simply isn't there. Using those valleys for lighter duties, clearing an inbox, filling out a form, feels manageable because the energy cost matches the demand. Yet the common mistake is assuming every task requires the same level of mental fuel, which only deepens frustration. The rise of time blocking illustrates the trap. On paper, allocating each task to a neat slot looks flawless. Mornings for deep work, afternoons for meetings, evenings for planning. But human rhythms don't bend to those blocks. Stress, sleep, diet, and countless interruptions constantly shift our capacity. This is why so many beautifully designed schedules collapse by mid-afternoon. The issue isn't discipline, the issue is biology. As writers like Tony Schwartz and Jim Loher noted, managing energy, not just time, is the real key to sustainable productivity. Our bodies follow ultradian rhythms, cycles of about 90 to 120 minutes where energy peaks and dips. Plan demanding work during your peak 90-120 minute cycles, and you'll find progress flows more easily than forcing it at random times. Adopting energy management means mapping your personal rhythm instead of pretending you're interchangeable with a clock. Watch for when you naturally feel alert, when boredom strikes, and when fatigue sets in. Instead of treating each hour identically, you match work to energy. Your most creative or strategic jobs go in the high-energy windows. Admin and shallow tasks get mid-level energy. Small maintenance, clean up, or routine communication fills the valleys. The difference is stark. You're no longer trying to be at maximum power all day. You're moving with the cycle, not against it. For example, suppose you know mornings are your best slot. That's when you draft essays, code features, or tackle any job that demands sharp concentration. Then, as energy predictably dips after lunch, you pivot to easier wins, quick responses, filing documents, adjusting schedules. Later, when attention begins to recover in the early evening, you pick up light planning or brainstorming. Nothing gets wasted. Even your lowest hours aren't written off, they're simply given the types of work that match them. Instead of feeling like a collapse, each stretch becomes useful in its own category. Without this mindset, people keep punishing themselves. They sit down at 3 p.m. after a string of meetings, drained and hungry, and expect brilliance on command. Unsurprisingly, little gets done. Yet instead of recognizing the limits of timing, many shift blame inward. I lost discipline, or I lacked focus. But ask yourself, if your phone is at 1% battery, would you expect it to stream video flawlessly? Energy runs productivity the same way. It's not a moral failure. It's simple physics. Reframing carries a huge payoff. Productivity stops being about squeezing every minute and starts being about alignment. The key question becomes, not how hard can I push, but what type of work fits my energy right now? That subtle switch removes layers of guilt, and the outcome often surprises people. They get more done in less time because effort no longer leaks away into mismatched tasks. Motivation improves because the work finally feels lighter, even though total hours haven't changed. If you're juggling classes, unpredictable shifts, or side gigs, this shift matters even more. trying to force in just one more hour at midnight when you're spent doesn't produce quality. Mapping your energy can. Give your sharpest windows to what matters deeply and let lighter tasks fill the rest. That's how momentum actually builds without sacrificing sanity. A small exercise helps bring this to life. Track your focus for 3 days and mark your strongest hour in each. You'll quickly spot your peak zone. Once you know it, protect that hour for deep work at all costs. Guard it from meetings, phone calls, or chores. That simple experiment often feels more powerful than any elaborate calendar hack because it reveals the rhythm you already live inside but rarely notice. Humor also makes the point sink in. No one eats a heavy lunch, scrolls through 2 back-to-back virtual meetings, and then casually produces their great novel before dinner. That's expectation running directly against energy. The slump belongs to easier, mechanical actions. Attaching guilt to that truth just multiplies frustration. By contrast, when you accept the slump and redirect it to lighter activity, the grind softens. It stops looking like lost hours and starts looking like intelligent division of labor. This approach also strips away a hidden burden, the need to maintain constant high output. Productivity theater glamorizes nonstop intensity, but sustainable systems acknowledge fluctuation as normal. Your role is not to flatten energy into a perfectly steady line, but to ride the natural rise and fall. Some stretches will always be less productive than others. The trick is making sure they still serve a role. From here, the next question almost asks itself. Once you learn to map and match energy, how do you restore it? Even the best energy map won't help if your supply runs dry. Energy isn't a permanent bank balance. It needs to be rebuilt through deliberate recovery. Yet culturally, we've treated recovery as weakness or inefficiency. That belief is why so many people ignore breaks, ignore sleep, and ignore pauses, even while their output declines. We rarely see rest as a real productivity tool. So the next step isn't about shaving your schedule tighter. It's about understanding what actually replenishes energy and why downtime can produce as much value as the hours you spend visibly working. That's where the focus goes next. Rest as a productivity multiplier. Rest is often seen as a pause button on progress, but in reality, it acts more like a multiplier. Many people still hold the belief that stepping away from work is wasted time, as if productivity only counts when you're actively typing, talking, or checking boxes. That assumption has been reinforced by decades of work culture, and it's even stronger now as remote work erases the line between job and home. When your laptop is always within reach, taking a walk or even sitting still can feel like neglect. But the evidence tells another story. Research, including findings from the University of Illinois, shows that short, intentional breaks improve sustained attention and make room for better creativity. Rest isn't a detour from productivity, it's a driver of it. Part of the problem is that rest gets confused with procrastination. Closing your eyes for a few minutes, shutting down your phone for an evening, or taking a guilt-free afternoon walk often feels suspiciously close to laziness. Because we've put recovery so low on the priority list, we tend to only allow it when burnout has already arrived, when the body finally forces a collapse. This creates a paradox. By resisting rest, work slows down and becomes less effective, which convinces people they should skip breaks even more. The results are obvious in those late-night marathons where concentration has evaporated, and yet we stay tethered to the screen, producing nothing meaningful. The alternative is reframing rest as active recovery. Rest, when chosen deliberately, doesn't sap your momentum. It restores it. Athletes understand this well. Training every single day without respite doesn't lead to continuous growth, it causes breakdowns. Progress comes from alternating stress and recovery so muscles rebuild stronger. The brain works in a similar cycle. Attention drains with use, and without recovery, each task begins to feel heavier. Rest swaps that decline for renewal. A short nap, a walk, even a quiet pause can reset your mental resources in ways sheer determination can't. Think of the brain like a battery. Nobody celebrates running their phone all day at 3% charge. Yet people still boast about pulling non-stop stretches of work as if perseverance can override biology. The truth is less romantic. Without recharging, performance simply crashes. Studies repeatedly demonstrate that strategic breaks can increase accuracy, creativity, and sustained focus. 2 minutes of silence or 10 minutes outdoors often lead to output that's sharper than hours of fatigued effort. Far from being indulgence, rest is resource management. But not all rest is equal. It helps to distinguish between collapse rest and intentional rest. Collapse rest is what happens when exhaustion wins. You zone out in front of the TV for hours, doom scroll, or nap for half the day because there's nothing left in the tank. It looks like a break, but it doesn't refuel much because your system was already depleted. Intentional rest, on the other hand, is proactive. It's the 20-minute nap scheduled before your energy plunges, the 10-minute walk that recharges you mid-afternoon, or the clear boundary of downtime in your evening that you've chosen in advance. Each is small, chosen, and effective. If you haven't tested this yet, try a simple habit. Schedule one intentional 20-minute pause tomorrow. Rest your eyes, stretch, or walk, and then notice how the following hour feels. The paradox is that unplanned distractions already consume far more of our time than deliberate rest ever would. Endless scrolling between tasks or checking your inbox 20 times in an afternoon is culturally accepted, even if it wastes hours. But sitting quietly for 10 minutes, doing nothing on purpose, still gets framed as a poor use of time. Both involve stepping away from work, yet only the latter recharges you. It's like confusing constant snacking with actual meals. Lots of consumption, very little nourishment. The humor is that work culture glorifies activity while ignoring that most of our activity is accidental leakage. Building intentional rest into a system changes everything. Instead of breaks happening by accident, you structure them the same way you schedule meetings or deadlines. They become important inputs, not gaps. When handled like this, rest no longer feels guilty or suspicious. It feels like part of the plan. Your day then stretches further, with focus peaks repeating because recovery keeps happening in between. This avoids the brittle sprint and collapse rhythm so many fall into and replaces it with something steadier. Less exhaustion means greater longevity, and that's what meaningful productivity really requires. The payoff is obvious over the long term. A person who burns relentlessly runs fast and then burns out. A person who treats rest as renewable fuel maintains consistent output for months or years. History shows that sustainable creators, researchers, athletes, and performers all build systems of renewal around their effort. Their success doesn't come from dodging rest. It comes from mastering it. Brute force can carry you through a day. Only recovery carries you through a career. If you've ever felt both busy and unproductive at the same time, tired at the end of the week but with little to show for it, you've lived the effects of undervaluing recovery. Hours poured in, results dragged out, and by the weekend you were drained. That isn't laziness on your part. That's the outcome of fueling work on empty. Rest shifts this cycle before it spirals. 10 minutes now preserves hours later. Small investments prevent full-scale crashes. Imagine redefining rest socially the same way. Colleagues wouldn't see breaks as dipping out, but as part of the work process. A 15-minute pause would be treated as valid as a scheduled call because its role is just as crucial, keeping the brain sharp enough to handle everything else. This change starts individually. You schedule rest the same way you schedule effort, you defend it in your days, and you view it not as indulgence but infrastructure. Nobody questions charging their laptop. The real question is why anyone hesitates to charge themselves. To make this practical, you can start with a challenge. Schedule one intentional 15-minute rest block tomorrow and pay close attention to how the next hour feels. That experiment is simple, but the effect is immediate. Many discover that their focus, patience, and output improve so clearly that the habit almost locks itself in after a few trials. Once proven personally, it becomes difficult to return to nonstop grind. Of course, the real obstacle to intentional rest isn't disbelief, it's interference. Our environment constantly interrupts the space we set aside to recharge. Notifications ping, screens glow, and distractions disguise themselves as urgent, stealing away what was meant to restore us. Even after recognizing rest as a productivity tool, it takes extra care to defend it. And that tension leads straight into the next major hurdle for anyone hoping to work with clarity: the trap of constant distraction. Defeating the distraction web. You know that moment when you glance at a notification, just for a second, and then realize 45 minutes have vanished? One quick check turns into 3 social feeds, a handful of random videos, and an email you didn't even mean to open. the pull feels minor in the moment. The cost adds up fast. In 2025, researchers estimate that digital distractions now consume several hours of the average worker's day. That's not a small side effect. It's often the main reason progress feels like it evaporates hour by hour. Plans, carefully built schedules, and even well-managed energy cycles can't survive if every buzz forces a restart. The real issue isn't multitasking, it's context switching. Each interruption slices through whatever concentration you had built. Neuroscience research shows it can take over 20 minutes to fully re-enter deep focus after even a single disruption. That means the 1-second glance exacts a hidden penalty of half an hour where your brain drifts back toward traction. Stack those across a normal day, and you understand why evenings often feel like wasted effort despite constant busyness. Most advice boils down to just be more disciplined. Lock the phone away, fight the urge, summon willpower. That framing makes things worse because it implies failure is personal weakness. But the truth is simpler. You're not up against chance, you're up against design. Every alert sound, red badge, and infinite scroll loop is engineered with one purpose: hold your attention. That architecture isn't neutral, it's predatory, which is why self-control feels like a losing battle. The smarter approach isn't to bet on constant resistance, it's to change the architecture itself so you don't need as much resistance in the first place. Use tech to change the architecture. Not only will self-control be easier, you'll actually get more done. One way to do that is with distraction windows. Instead of saying no more scrolling ever, you negotiate with your brain by making breaks official. The method is clear. Work 90 minutes, then allow yourself 10-15 minutes of guilt-free distraction time, then repeat. That one-line template turns vague restraint into a routine you can rely on. By scheduling the release, you stop the constant, just a second leaks. Your brain relaxes because it knows another break is already coming. And paradoxically, you end up distracted less because you stop dipping in every 5 minutes. Take this story. A colleague used to spend entire workdays in a state of miniature half-focus, always slipping back to her phone for a quick check. By evening, she was exhausted, though she could barely point to what got done. She tried an experiment: 2 official distraction breaks each day, mid-morning and late afternoon, 15 minutes each. Same apps, same content, but contained. What shocked her wasn't just the extra hours reclaimed. It was the calm. The itch to check constantly disappeared once it had a designated time slot. She started producing more, but she also stopped feeling guilty. The apps were still part of her day, just no longer her whole day. Tools can help structure those boundaries even more clearly. Most phones and laptops now have do not disturb modes that silence everything except essentials you choose. Apps exist to go further. Freedom lets you block entire websites for preset intervals. Cold Turkey does the same, but with stricter locks that you can't bypass mid-urge. Self-control, popular among students, blocks chosen sites on a timer whether you restart your device or not. And LeechBlock offers detailed options where you can allow 10 minutes of access per hour to specific platforms. Perfect if you need news headlines, but not rabbit holes. Each one reshapes the playing field, so it's not all on you. A bit of setup replaces endless rounds of guilt. Another layer is batching. Instead of being pinged in real time by every incoming message, some tools hold notifications and release them on a schedule you set, say once an hour or just twice per day. The result is fewer interruptions and longer uninterrupted work streaks. Pair that with scheduled distraction windows in the calendar itself, and the temptation weakens even more. When your devices only let you check apps at deliberate intervals, it becomes much easier to train the brain to focus in the meantime. Think of this like drawing play zones for a toddler. You don't try to suppress their energy entirely, you give them boundaries so chaos doesn't spill into every room of the house. In the same way, apps don't ruin your life if you give them their own corner. They actually cause less disruption because they're contained. You stop fighting the fantasy of complete abstinence and instead create a predictable rhythm of focused work now, distraction later.